Good afternoon. This is our caller with the National Weather Service for June 10th, 2021 for Alaska weather. We have a couple options for you, 1-800 and a weather.gov/Alaska website. Both are designed to help you further refine your weather search and help you look into any watch warnings or advisories that may be out for your area of concern. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at the email listed at the bottom of the page. For hazardous weather, no watch warnings or advisories are out currently, but please look into that if you are going out on venturing outside. Give that weather.gov/Alaska a once over before you head outside. For the satellite information, you can see that a low pressure system moving through the Chukchi Sea, spreading some clouds through the northwest part of the state. Also some cloudiness extending down through much of the interior and with some afternoon buildups associated with thermal activity. And we also have some cloudiness down through the Cook Inlet region, southern Cook Inlet region, Kodiak Island, associated with a weak low pressure system there in the Gulf, and that's going to be exiting into the North Pacific here over the next day, but slowly. And lastly, we have some clouds, nothing too concerning over the Panhandle. Otherwise, there's some breaks across the interior near the border. Looking at today's weather, low pressure system there in extreme eastern Russia, frontal systems associated with that, high pressure over the central Aleutians, and another high pressure system over the south central region, northern Gulf region as well, and a low pressure system thermally driven over the Yukon Territory / British Columbia. And we also have some mixed precipitation associated with that low pressure system in the Chukchi Sea along the northwest coast and out into the Arctic coast there, Beaufort Sea coast, and then some shower activity through much of the interior, and that extends down into the southwest and Bristol Bay region. For tonight's weather, low pressure system moves further east into the central Bering Sea near the southern end of the Bering Strait. Otherwise, high pressure moves westward over to Bristol Bay region, some clearing across the northern Gulf and the south central, and some mixed precipitation associated with low pressure system exiting north through the Chukchi Sea into the Arctic Ocean. Otherwise, high pressure over the eastern Aleutians, and a low pressure system again exiting the southern Gulf into the northern Pacific. And for Friday's weather, that low pressure system approaches the YK Delta now, high pressure moving further east over the Aleutians, and that thermally driven low over the Yukon Territory continues out there. Otherwise, high pressure shows up along the Beaufort Sea, and again that low pressure system near the southern end of the Gulf continues to weaken. For Saturday's weather, thermal trough across much of the interior with some precipitation, especially thermally driven in the afternoon and evening. Otherwise, high pressure moves into the southern Gulf and just south of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, some clearing across the northern Gulf and into south central. For low temperatures Friday morning, looking at 47 for Ketchikan, 47 in Sitka, 47 in Haines, 44 in Valdez, 47 in Anchorage, 43 in Talkeetna, 44 in Iliamna, 41 in King Salmon, and 47 in Kodiak. For low temperatures across the Arctic coast for Friday morning, looking at 37 for Kaktovik, Ukiyavik 32 in Point Hope, 38 in Anaktuvik Pass, 50 in Fort Yukon, 47 in Eagle, 50 in Fairbanks, 47 in Galena, 39 in Nome, and 34 in Savunga, and 45 in McGrath, and 45 in Bettle as well. For low temperatures Friday morning down through the southwest Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, looking at 42 in Bethel, 45 in Dillingham, 43 in Cold Bay, 44 in Dutch Harbor, 43 in Shemya, and 41 in St. Paul. Back over to the Gulf region, 63 in Ketchikan, 57 in Sitka, 65 in Haines, 56 in Yakutat, 66 in Valdez, 64 in Anchorage, 68 in Talkeetna, 61 in Kenai, 59 in Kodiak, 57 in King Salmon, and lastly 64 in McGrath. Looking at the North Slope and Interior, 44 in Ukqiavik, 39 in Ukqiavik, Point Hope 38, 53 in Anaktuvuk Pass, 72 in Fort Yukon, 70 in Eagle, 69 in Fairbanks, 61 in Galena, 66 in Tanana, 47 in Nome, 38 in Savunga, and again there's that 64 in McGrath. Down through the southwest, Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, 50 in Bethel, 55 in Iliamna, 52 in Cold Bay, 53 in Dutch Harbor, 47 in Shemya, St. Paul 46. Down through the Gulf region for low temperatures Saturday morning, 47 in Ketchikan, 48 in Sitka, 49 in Juneau, 49 in Haines, 44 in Yakutat, 48 in Valdez, 47 in Anchorage, 44 in Talkeetna, 43 in Kenai, 45 in Homer, 47 in Kodiak, 41 in King Salmon. Up through the interior, North Slope, Kaktovik 34, Ukqiavik 32, 32 in Point Hope, Anaktuvuk Pass 39, 50 in Fort Yukon, 47 in Eagle, 51 in Fairbanks, 47 in Tanana, 46 in Galena, 40 in Nome, 33 in Savunga. For the southwest, again for Saturday morning, low temperatures, looking at 43 in Bethel, 43 in Iliamna, 43 in Cold Bay, 45 in Dutch Harbor, 43 in Shemya, 40 in St. Paul. High temperatures Saturday afternoon, Ketchikan 62, 56 in Sitka, Haines 51, Juneau 59, 56 in Yakutat, 66 in Valdez, Talkeetna 70, 64 in Anchorage, 72 in Gulkana, 61 in Kenai, 61 in Homer, 59 in Kodiak, and 55 in King Salmon. For high temperature Saturday afternoon, Kaktovik 39, 37 in Ukqiavik, 39 in Point Hope, 57 in Anaktuvuk Pass, 77 in Fort Yukon, 73 in Eagle, Big Delta 72, 74 in Fairbanks, 71 in Tanana, 65 in Galena, 50 in Nome, 38 in Savunga. And then over into the southwest region, high temperature Saturday afternoon, 51 in Bethel, 56 in Iliamna, 54 in Cold Bay, Dutch Harbor 54, 47 in Shemya, 47 in St. Paul. And for the climate outlook, looking for June 1st through the 5th, the 6 to 10 day outlook for next week. Basically looking at above normal tilts down through the southwest and Bristol Bay region, and that extends out into portions of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, below normal tendencies for much of the southeast interior, and that extends over into the North Slope as well, and across the Panhandle. But looking at the precipitation, again for 6 to 10 day outlook from June 1st to the 5th, looking at above normal tilts across much of the western or eastern half of the mainland down through south central and into the Panhandle, with again tilts as far as 40% above probabilities across much of the Panhandle, and near normal conditions across much of the west and north, and again across the Alaska Peninsula.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the flying weather for Friday morning, looking at IFR conditions across much of the western coast and into the Arctic Ocean there. Otherwise, some marginal conditions through the Panhandle and in the Northern Gulf. Areas of IFR conditions in the Gulf of Alaska, and IFR conditions out through much of the Bering Sea and central and western Aleutians. And for Friday afternoon, IFR conditions through much of the west coast and northwest coast, and also portions of the Arctic coast up there along the north slope. Otherwise, marginal conditions down through much of the southwest in the Bristol Bay region. IFR conditions again through the southern Bering and much of the Aleutians, and marginal conditions in portions of the Panhandle and northeast Gulf Coast and portions of the Kenai Peninsula. For Saturday morning, again, IFR conditions over much of the southwest and Seward Peninsula up into the northwest coast, and some IFR conditions there in Bristol Bay region. Otherwise, some IFR conditions through much of the Bering and Aleutians, and marginal conditions through much of the Panhandle, and IFR conditions there out in the Gulf of Alaska. For Saturday afternoon, IFR conditions through the YK Delta into the Seward Peninsula, marginal conditions through the northwest coast and Arctic coast as well, and marginal conditions through much of the southwest and Alaska Peninsula, IFR conditions through much of the Bering Sea and Aleutians, and again by Saturday afternoon, pretty good flying weather across much of the Panhandle with marginal conditions just off the coast there. For past conditions on Friday, AKwx VFR, same for Adigan VFR conditions. Lake Clark and Merrill VFR conditions, again pretty good flying conditions throughout much of the state. Rainy VFR, windy VFR, Isabel VFR with afternoon thunderstorm possibilities, and same for Mentasta with VFR and afternoon thunderstorms possible. And for Tanita, VFR conditions there, and Portage marginal conditions, Chilkoot and White marginal conditions as you get into the northern Panhandle. For the freezing level Friday morning, looking at a 6,000 foot freezing level cutting through the central part of the state. Surface freezing level over there in the southeast interior and touching the corner of the northern Panhandle. Otherwise, surface freezing level cuts across the Arctic coast there down through the northwest coast and just maybe touching the Seward Peninsula, otherwise down through the Bering Strait. Otherwise, 8,000 foot freezing level over the Panhandle and anywhere between 2,000 and 10,000 feet as you get across the Bering Strait and into the Bering Sea, and again get to 10,000 feet over there in the western Aleutians, western and central Aleutians, and just south of that get into 12,000 foot freezing level south of the central Aleutians. For ice conditions on Friday, between 6,000 and 10,000 feet over much of the west and interior portions of the state. I did go for areas of considerable moderate over the middle Yukon into the Koyukuk Basin. Otherwise, some isolated moderate over portions of the Panhandle and into the Gulf region. For jet stream on Friday, northwesterly winds across much of the central and northern Bering, 75 knots there as you get into the Alaska Peninsula, 85 to 90 knots across the central and eastern Aleutians. Jet streak just south of the eastern Aleutians with 105 knots analyzed there. Otherwise, light and variable across much of the Panhandle and southern mainland. Westerly flow across much of the north slope. For 9,000 foot freezing levels on Friday, 40 to 45, and a counterclockwise flow around a low just south of the St. Lawrence Island region. So westerly flow across the southern Bering Sea, southwesterly flow as you get into the YK Delta, westerly flow along the north slope, light and variable across much of the mainland and Panhandle. And for 3,000 foot winds on Friday, again, counterclockwise flow around a low pressure system just south of St. Lawrence Island, bringing some southerly winds across the YK Delta, light and variable across much of the mainland. And for turbulence, no turbulence was analyzed for Friday. Otherwise, some pretty good flying conditions across the state.
What's up, my starstruck friends? Trace here. Pollinators are the key to nature, and as summer has begun, I thought I'd give you some homework to find the great beehive in the sky. The beehive cluster is in the constellation Cancer, and the Moon and Mars are going to help us find it. Head outside a little after 10 p.m. and look for Venus near the horizon. Mars will be up and to its left. If you use them to draw a line, just from Mars to Is Cancer the Crab and M44 the Beehive. As June wears on, the moon will follow our line until on June 13th it makes a triangle with Mars and a fuzzy M44. In ancient times, the Greeks called the Beehive cluster Cloudy Star, but today we know it's an open cluster like the Hyades or Pleiades. The Beehive cluster is one of the closest star clusters to Earth. Once you can pinpoint it, try seeing it with binoculars. Some of the clusters have more than 1,000 members. Happy hunting and keep looking up.
We're at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're about 20 minutes before the launch of ICESat-2. You might see the white light off in the distance. That's the Delta II rocket.
It kind of feels like an idea that was always going to just stay an idea. But no, it's real. It's sitting on top of the rocket.
You know, and for me, it's kind of surreal. Like you say, it's been 10 years and it's hard to believe. It's like, we're really here? This is really about to happen? It's totally cool.
This is Dr. Tom Newman. Over the years, his work has taken him to some pretty remote areas to study changes in the ice regions of our planet. And his research, among many others, has defined the goals of the new NASA satellite, the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICESat-2.
And we have ignition and...
The story of ICESat-2 really begins with ICESat-1. ICESat told us all kinds of cool things about the ice sheet and about sea ice that we didn't really know to ask. That data allowed us to measure elevation change of ice sheets in a way that we hadn't been able to before, and showed that all the action on the ice sheets, the places that were really changing quickly, were around the edges. So when we were thinking about what could we do better next time, we knew that was one key component.
In addition to the edges of the ice sheets, ICESat-2 needed to measure a dimension of sea ice that remained elusive: its thickness. To figure out how thick sea ice is, you can measure the height of ice sticking out of the ocean, or freeboard, and compare it to the height of water between the sea ice flows, called leads.
The problem is, sea ice is really dynamic, and those cracks open and close various places in the ice pack throughout the day, throughout the year, and what we need to do is have measurements of the ocean whenever it's available, wherever it occurs in the sea ice pack.
To solve that problem, ICESat-2 was designed with a fast pulsing laser instrument to take precise, near-continuous measurements across its 3 pairs of beams. For 10 years, everything about the mission was designed to measure rapid changes in the most rapidly changing part of the cryosphere. But it has to get into space first.
But it's a huge transition going from the ground to in space. We've spent better part of 10 years, thousands of people have been involved, and actually seeing the rocket there on the pad with all of that work kind of all put together in one place, it's pretty amazing. And then getting up in the middle of the night to go watch the actual launch, it's sort of surreal in a way, because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, you know, it's a big deal.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's off. That's 1.
That was awesome. Totally cool. There it went. That was Atlas. Last Delta II, heading on out. So Atlas has been turned on over the course of the first few weeks of the mission, really culminating for us with the laser. So this is our first look at sea ice data from ICESat-2, and it looks fantastic. The signal levels look great. We've got plenty of photons there. We're capturing ridges. We can clearly see the ocean. All sorts of cool stuff in there, and this is just our first data. It's only going to get better from here on out.
The data from ISAT-2 is well on its way into digging deeper into the unknown dimensions of sea ice sheets, and glaciers. It will shed light on changes in sea level and global weather patterns, and once again find new things about ice we didn't know to ask.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
Slight chance the flight may see ISAT-2 in their center windscreen. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6,
That's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge. Looking at some open water areas around the Bering Strait region and down through just south of the St. Lawrence Island area. Otherwise some ice holding on the north side of the island there. Otherwise some lower concentrations of ice along the northwest coast and poking into the Beaufort Sea coast region. For marine forecast on Saturday, looking at variable conditions across the inside waters of the Panhandle from 10 to 40. Outside waters, winds generally from a westerly direction, 15 to 20, with seas as high as 16 feet there near just off the shore of the southern Panhandle. For Sunday's marine forecast, inside waters, winds generally from the southerly direction up to 15, seas as high as 3 feet. Outside waters, winds generally from the southerly direction, 15 to 25, seas as high as 8 feet. And for south central, winds generally from an easterly direction on Saturday, with seas as high as 4 feet. And for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a northeasterly direction, 15 to 30, with seas as high as 9 feet there in the Kamishak Bay region. For Sunday's marine forecast, south central, for the Gulf area, winds generally from a southeasterly direction, 30 to 40, with seas as high as 12 feet. In Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 30, with seas as high as 7 feet. Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a easterly direction, 25 to 35, with seas as high as 14. So look for gales there. And for Saturday, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, around Kodiak Island, variable conditions with seas as high as anywhere between 20 and 25, seas as high as 8 feet. South side of the peninsula, winds from the southerly direction at 30, seas as high as 8 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from the southerly direction, 20 to 30, with seas as high as 8 feet. And for Sunday, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the southerly direction, 25 to 40, with seas as high as 12 feet. And south side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a southwesterly direction, 30, with seas as high as 12 feet. North side of the peninsula, winds generally from a southerly direction of 30, with seas as high as 10 feet. For loosened chain, looking at winds generally from a southerly direction, 30 to 40, with seas as high as 21 feet there between Adak and Kiska. And for Sunday, sorry about the graphics, but the numbers are correct. Winds generally from a westerly direction, around 30, with seas as high as 16 feet just south of Nikolsky. For the marine forecast on Saturday, for the west coast, winds generally from the easterly direction, anywhere between 30 and 40, with seas as high as 16 feet. And for the west coast on Sunday, winds generally from the easterly direction, 25 to 30, with 20s near the Pribs and seas as high as 11 feet. For the Arctic coast on Saturday, winds generally from a variable direction across much of the region, but otherwise southerly across the Arctic coast there, up to 15, between 10 and 15, down through the northwest coast, winds variable at 10, down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from a easterly direction at 25 to 40. And for Sunday, looking at winds along the Beaufort Sea coast from a southerly direction, 10 to 15, and down through the Bering Strait, winds from a northerly direction at around 25 to 45. For tonight's weather, looking at that low pressure system approaching the Bering Strait and YK Delta, otherwise high pressure over Bristol Bay region, and into south central with some clearing there along the North Gulf Coast. Otherwise, high pressure across the eastern Aleutians and into the southern end of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, low pressure system moving south or southeast from the Gulf into the northern Pacific. Otherwise, thermal trough cutting across the Yukon Territory. On Friday, looking at low pressure system approaching the YK Delta, showers across much of the interior, and thermal low across the Yukon Territory. High pressure moving east across the eastern Aleutians now, and then that low pressure system meandering in the northern Pacific. Otherwise, some clearing across the northern Gulf and into south central. And for Saturday, thermal trough across interior, bringing some showers there. High pressure moving east across into the Gulf region again for Saturday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.